Let's see what happens here. 0.1 exponents is something that I believe every single one of you have learned before, probably starting in 5th grade. In 5th grade and in 6th grade, you started dealing with exponents. And an exponent just represents how many factors are being multiplied together. So when you see that little 2, it means that you have 2 factors of 4 multiplying each other. It means that you have a 4. I'm going to hope that this pen works today. Times 4, because you have 2 factors of 4 multiplying each other. And then this would mean that you have 5 factors of 4 multiplying each other. Now what this does, it says rewrite each expression using only one base. You do not need to work out the final answer. So what we want you to do is say, well, how many factors is this? If there's 2 here and 5 there, how many factors of 4 do we have? And I'm hoping you know what that exponent would be if we were to simplify it. If you don't know, the answer should have been 4 to the 7th power. And I'm just curious, how many of you in here got 4 to the 7th power when you were doing it or you had it in your head? Perfect. Thank you very much. That's the majority of you. That means that you guys have seen this before. Perfect. I like it. Now, the way this gets harder is they're going to start throwing in not just bases to an exponent. This is called the base. This is called the exponent. The base is the number that's at the bottom of an exponent. They're going to not just have numbers there. They're going to have variables to these exponents. And they're going to have these things called coefficients. And so if I were to multiply, like number 10 asked me to do, it asked me to multiply negative 4xy to the 2nd multiplied by 15x to the 4th y to the 5th. You might get confused as to what do I do. If that's you, that's why I wrote this down. When multiplying, coefficients multiply and the same bases add exponents. Here's what that means to me, because these are Mr. Paramo's notes. Coefficients are the numbers in front. This is multiply, so I'm going to multiply this negative 4 and I'm going to multiply this 15. Those are my coefficients. They're going to multiply each other. Negative 4 times 15. And I know my 15s, but if you don't, you could use a calculator here if you wanted to. 4 times 15 is the same thing as 60. A negative times a positive is a negative. So I know that these multiply to be negative 60. We multiply them because they're coefficients. They're not dealing with exponents. And then the same basis means that x's have the same base as this other x. I can only do my exponent rules with things that have the same base. X and x have the same base. If you do not know how many x's are here, there is an invisible 1 right there that you do not see, that we never put there, because we assume that you are going to know that there is 1 factor of x there. If I have x to the 1st and I have x to the 4th, there's 4 x's multiplying each other. There's another x here multiplying each other. How many x's do I have multiplying each other? It's going to be x to a certain power. I hope you know what that power is. If you know what that power is, say the number out loud. 5. Wonderful. And as we go, the y's go with the y's. The y is going to be to a certain power, and the y is going to be to what power? Say it out loud. 7. Wonderful. I can tell you all understand. The good part is you are doing things correctly. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. That's number 10, by the way. That's the exact same number 10 as is in your worksheet, if my memory serves me correct. The last example I have is number 21 for this particular piece. Where students make mistakes, this is one of those questions that I see a lot of students make small mistakes on. And so I wanted to do this as an example because 3x squared y to the 5th power means this whole group, I have 5 factors of it. If I were to write it out, you can write it out if you wanted to, but this is what it looks like. There are going to be 5 of these groups. That's what it means. You have 5 factors, 5 groups of multiplication of this 3x squared y multiplying each other. Which means we have now this is set up just like what we had before. We can multiply the coefficients, we can add the same bases exponents. So let's do that. I have a 3 coefficient multiplied by another 3, by another 3, by another 3, by another 3. I'm going to need to double check myself that because I don't know what 3 to the 5th power is. Let me see. 81 times 3, 243? Am I getting head nods? If not, if you're unsure, that's where I pull out the pocket calculator. And as I told you before, I do recommend certain calculators. Let me see if I can hold this up here. 3 to the 5th power. I'm using this button. You can't see. Let's go to there. It has an X with a box on it. That's my exponent button on the Casio. This is the model I recommend you use. Remember how I told you I would show you how to do that? It allows you to put a 5 in the exponent, and I can just double check my work that way. It's helpful. Shortcut, right? We like shortcuts. 243, let me turn that light off. And now that's the coefficients. Now I can deal with the x's. I have x, and then there's 2 times another x times x, x times x, x times x. X to the 10th power, I assume. How many y's do we have multiplying each other? I believe we have 5 factors of y. Just curious, how many of you got 243 x to the 10th y to the 5th? Please raise your hand. A little over 60-70% of the class, not bad. Those numbers are kind of big, which is why you're probably going to want to start using a calculator on some of these problems. All right, scrolling up. The hardest that it gets are the places that have a lot of places to make mistakes. So let's talk about order of operations first, and then this problem doesn't have a 0 power in it, but there will be some questions in your homework that will raise something to the power of 0. You need to know that simplifies to 1. Anytime there's an exponent outside of parentheses, it shows how many factors of the entire parentheses are being multiplied. So let me see. This 3, let me zoom in just a little bit. This 3 means that you have 3 factors of this group. It does not mean you have 3 factors of this other group. It only has 3 factors of the thing that is inside the parentheses. It means that you have a 2j to the 4th. You have 3 of those. And that is being multiplied by this group here, which is a 4jk squared. So I really like to go to what does it mean, and I write out what it means first. And then what I like to do from there is follow the rule that we talked about. It said multiply the coefficients. 2 times 2 times 2 times 4. Let me see, 2, 4, 8, 32. Let me double check my arithmetic. 8, 16, 32. Okay, I agree with my coefficients. Now let me go to the j's. 8, 12, 13 of them. What I'm doing is I'm counting. I have 4 j's being multiplied, 4 factors, and another 4 factors, and another 4 factors, plus this one factor all by itself. There's an invisible 1 there. 4, 12, 13 of them that are multiplying each other. That's the easiest way to simplify it. And then the k's. How many k's do I have? I have 2. And then we write these numbers, then letters in alphabetical order. There are a lot of places you can make small mistakes on a problem like 23. When we take our first quiz next week, we will find out how many of you follow the order of operations and follow your rules of exponents. I'm going to stop the recording right there.